Chosen one, the moment has come, not by chance, but by divine appointment. You, the chosen one, are standing at the gateway of something rare, sacred, and immensely powerful. This isn't just another chapter. It is the chapter where alignment, awakening, and authority collide. For far too long, you've walked this earth holding inside you a power that few could understand. You felt it in your silence, in your stillness, in your yearning for more. Not more material, but more meaning. That one in a million energy, it's not arriving. It's already within you. And now, finally, it's activating. This is your divine time. This is your divine plan. And it's been orchestrated long before you even had the words to ask for it. You didn't stumble upon this video. You didn't randomly click. You were led here because a specific shift is taking place, a transformation where your wishes begin to align with universal energy and manifest in your reality. The veil is thin right now, and this is not an ordinary season. This is a portal, a transition, a sacred bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. And the more you listen, the more you'll remember the power that's always been yours. Before we go any deeper into this divine transmission, I want to take a moment and speak directly to your soul. Stay until the very end of this video. Not for me, but for you. Because something in these words is coded for you, meant for you, designed to stir your spirit awake. Drop your warmest wishes in the comments below. Let the numbers T9 and 7777 be your confirmation, your yes, your energetic agreement with this holy activation. Subscribe now, because this video is not the end. It's a doorway into a full, expansive series created just for you. A series meant to rewire you, reawaken you, and reconnect you with the truth that has been calling you home. Now, take a breath, a deep one, the kind that clears the noise and welcomes the sacred, because we are about to walk together into a dimension of clarity that not only explains your journey, but also ignites your future. And it begins with this truth: your connection to God is not broken. It's not hidden. It's not delayed. It's alive. And it's more powerful now than it's ever been before. You see, for most of your life, you've likely felt like you were being prepared. But for what? The tests, the silence, the solitude, the inner wars that no one ever saw, the waves of deep spiritual fatigue, followed by sudden sparks of otherworldly insight. That was never random. That was alignment in motion. That was divine timing calibrating your spirit, your mind, your life for this moment. Because you are not ordinary. And what you carry cannot be processed through ordinary means. You've always had to listen deeper, wait longer, trust harder. That wasn't punishment. That was positioning. Because what's happening now in your spirit cannot be rushed. The divine doesn't rush royalty, it refines it. Chosen one, your inner world has been shifting long before the outer world catches up. You felt the change, the weight, the energy. But now comes the confirmation. Not just from people, not just from signs, but from your own spirit. You are starting to see who you truly are, and not in fragments, in fullness. This is the point where your soul begins to recognize its original instructions, the sacred blueprint that was encoded within you before life tried to distract you from it. You're not just rediscovering purpose, you're reconnecting with your divine origin. And with that reconnection comes power. The kind of power that doesn't make noise. It makes alignment. It makes doors open. It makes peace rush in. It makes everything fall into place with grace, not force. This isn't the time to chase. It's the time to align. When you are truly connected to the divine, not just in theory, but in felt, living experience, everything changes. You no longer need the approval of the world to feel worthy. You no longer need to convince anyone of your value, because that value isn't external, it's eternal. There is something inside you that has been quiet for too long. It's the part of you that knows, that just knows. It knows when to say yes, when to walk away, when to rest, when to rise. That knowing, that's the divine voice within you, the still, sacred whisper that never left you, even when you ignored it, especially when you doubted it. And now, it's getting louder, not as noise, but as clarity, because when you connect with God, the confusion begins to dissolve. All the places you thought you were lost, you were really being led. All the times you thought you were abandoned, you were actually being hidden for protection, for preparation. And now you are being revealed. And with that revelation comes responsibility. Not to perform, not to prove, but to be, to embody the truth, to walk with peace, to carry light in dark rooms without dimming yourself just to make others comfortable. This is the season where you stop shrinking, where you stop second-guessing your intuition, where you stop apologizing for the power you were born with. Because now, that power is undeniable. There is no more room for smallness in your spirit. No more space for pretending you don't feel the pull. No more comfort in the old patterns that no longer reflect your truth. Because your connection with the divine has evolved. It's no longer just something you reach for in crisis. It's something you walk with daily, silently, reverently. This is why the plan never made sense to your logical mind. Because it wasn't written in logic, it was written in light. You are not walking toward your power anymore. You are the power now. And as you step deeper into this realization, don't be surprised if things begin to fall away. Relationships, habits, roles, identities. That's not loss. That's alignment. That's what happens when you finally return to yourself. And no, not everyone will understand this transformation. That's okay. They're not supposed to. This journey isn't about being understood. It's about being authentic. You are the one who had to go through what you went through, not because you were weak, but because you were called. And now that calling is awakening, and the vibration of your life is rising to match it. This is not the end. This is initiation. The divine plan for your life is not waiting for the right time anymore. It is the time, right now. You're not who you used to be, and you're not meant to live like you used to live. You're being asked by God, by your spirit, by the universe, to stop playing the old roles that kept you small, to stop trying to be who you were and start becoming who you are. And what you are is powerful, rare, unmistakably chosen. Your alignment with this truth is the ignition switch, and once it's on, nothing can turn it off. You are awakening now, not just spiritually, but energetically. The world around you may still be noisy, uncertain, chaotic, but inside you, a new stillness is emerging, one that doesn't depend on circumstances to feel whole. You're starting to realize your true power was never meant to be loud. It was meant to be consistent, quiet, unshakable, rooted. This is the energy of divine connection. It doesn't shout, it doesn't compete, it knows. And now you're being asked to walk in that knowing, every moment, every breath, every decision. Because the more you live from your spirit, the more the world begins to make sense, even when it doesn't. You start seeing people differently. You feel their energy before they speak. You discern intentions without needing proof. You begin to understand that not everything deserves a reaction, because not everything deserves your frequency. This is what happens when divine power begins to settle into your bones. You're not just reacting to life anymore, you're aligning with it. You're not fighting every storm. You're learning which ones are meant to pass and which ones you were born to calm. And that one in a million energy that was always yours, it's maturing. Before, it showed up as glimpses, as sudden bursts of clarity. Now, it's integrating. It's becoming your new default. The sacred within you is no longer something you tap into occasionally. It's becoming your baseline. This is what divine alignment looks like. Your choices start matching your calling. Your relationships begin to reflect your elevation. Your thoughts begin to echo the voice of God, not because you forced it, but because you finally surrendered to what was always true. You were never created to chase the world. You were created to anchor it. And chosen one, every time you forget that, life will send reminders, sometimes soft, sometimes harsh, not to punish you, but to pull you back to your axis, because you are the center of something sacred. You carry a gravitational pull. And when you forget who you are, everything feels off. Not because the world is wrong, but because you're misaligned. That's why this part of your journey is not about more information. It's about deeper embodiment. You don't need another sign. You need to become the sign. You don't need more clarity. You need to trust the clarity you already have. You don't need permission. You've already been given divine access. This isn't about waiting for someone else to acknowledge you. It's about acknowledging yourself, fully, lovingly, authentically, the way God has always seen you. Because once you honor your own power, the world has no choice but to follow. That's how divine authority works. It's not based on who's watching. It's based on who you are when no one is. And you, chosen one, have been watched, not by people, but by the divine. Watched through your nights of silence. Watched through your moments of doubt. Watched through every time you chose light over bitterness. And that watching has turned into divine remembering. A remembering of who you are, why you're here, and what you're meant to activate on this earth. You were never just meant to live a normal life. You're not built for templates. You're built for timelines that alter destinies. You don't follow the crowd. You shift the frequency of the crowd, not by shouting, but by simply being who you are. And that who you are is becoming clearer every day. That's why your past is starting to make sense. All the rejections, redirections, all the delays, refinements, all the heartbreaks, expansions. Your pain wasn't random. It was a portal. And now you're being asked to walk through it, not with fear, but with power. You've seen what happens when you try to control the outcome. You've felt the exhaustion of trying to make everything make sense. But that's not your job anymore. Your job is to stay connected, stay clear, stay aligned. Let God handle the outcomes. Your only task is obedience to your highest truth. And that truth is this: you are enough as you are, called as you are, loved as you are. You're not waiting for healing to begin. You are the healing. You're not waiting for the next chapter. You are the chapter. This realization will make you lose interest in old versions of yourself. You'll outgrow places where you used to beg to belong. You'll release stories that once defined you. Not because you're becoming someone new, but because you're finally becoming who you've always been. And that is power. Quiet, holy, undeniable power. The kind of power that walks into a room and changes the temperature. The kind of power that doesn't speak to be heard, but speaks when it's necessary. The kind of power that doesn't need to prove itself, because its presence is the proof. That's what you're stepping into. That's the divine plan unfolding in real time. And yes, it may feel lonely at times. Growth always does. Elevation requires separation. But you're not alone. You've never been alone. There are unseen forces walking with you, guiding you, clearing the way before you even get there. Because this is bigger than you. Your alignment isn't just for you, it's for generations, for healing ancestral wounds, for rewriting patterns, for opening gates that have been locked for centuries. You are not just living, you are fulfilling a prophecy. Every yes you give to your higher self echoes across timelines. Every no you give to what no longer serves you shatters old chains. Every step you take in the direction of the divine is a declaration. I remember who I am. And that remembrance is what lights the fire, not outside of you, inside. The kind of fire that no storm can put out. The kind of fire that burns through illusions and brings truth to the surface. That's what's happening now, chosen one. This isn't just a spiritual phase. This is a divine rebirth, and you are not becoming powerful. You are power, finally walking in remembrance of itself. Something inside you is no longer content with surviving. It wants to expand, evolve, speak truth, walk boldly. You can feel it, like an inner hum that's getting louder. It's not anxiety, it's not fear, it's activation. It's your spirit realizing it's no longer willing to fit into a life that was never designed for the magnitude of your essence. This is why the familiar feels foreign, why the ordinary feels heavy, why what once felt like enough now feels empty. You're not losing your way, you're losing your limits. And that's what divine connection does. It strips away what no longer resonates, and it reveals what's real. It's not always easy. Sometimes it feels like loss, like being stripped down to nothing. But that's not destruction, it's purification. Because what's being built inside you now can't have any false foundation. You're being rebuilt in truth. You're not being asked to start over, you're being asked to rise, to step into the kind of inner power that doesn't come from learning. It comes from remembering. Remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Remembering what you carried before fear dimmed your light. Remembering the promise that was whispered into your soul before you were ever born. That promise is not forgotten. It's active, it's alive, and it's waiting for your full participation. Because divine alignment is a collaboration. You were never meant to wait for signs. You were meant to become the sign. Not in arrogance, not in ego, but in obedience to your original frequency, the one that matches heaven. And when you start walking in that frequency, you'll feel everything shift. Doors open, not because you force them, but because your vibration becomes the key. Opportunities find you, not because you chase, but because your presence is a magnet. People start saying things like, "There's something about you," and that something is your connection. It's the invisible glow that only truth produces. And now it's undeniable. You no longer need to perform to be loved, to be understood, to be chosen. Because when you're connected to the divine, you know you've already been chosen. Chosen to see clearly, chosen to love deeply, chosen to walk differently, chosen to carry a sacred fire that doesn't just warm you, it warms the entire atmosphere. And yet, you don't carry this power for recognition. You carry it because it's who you are, because the world needs you to walk in it. Not someday, now. And yes, this will cost you, not in money, not in things, but in identity. You will have to release versions of yourself that you've outgrown. You will have to lay down comfort for clarity. You will have to surrender illusion for illumination. This is not punishment. This is preparation for your next dimension. And it requires full presence, not perfection. Presence. God doesn't need you to be flawless. God needs you to be available. Available for alignment, for truth, for whispers in the still moments, for the nudges that don't always make sense, but always lead somewhere sacred. You've come too far to ignore that voice now. You know what happens when you go against your intuition. You've felt the soul exhaustion, the internal conflict, the heavy knowing that you betrayed yourself, trying to maintain peace outside of you. But that's no longer acceptable. You're done abandoning yourself. You're done silencing your wisdom just to be accepted by people who were never qualified to recognize your light. This is your reclamation, your homecoming, and not to a place, to your presence. Because presence is where power lives. It's where connection happens. It's where divine instruction drops in like lightning. You don't need more answers. You need more stillness. Because the divine doesn't speak over noise. It waits for alignment. And when you're aligned, the guidance flows. You begin to live by a rhythm that the world doesn't understand. You start saying no to things that look good but don't feel right. You stop explaining yourself because the frequency you walk in is self-explanatory. And you begin to glow, not with performance, but with peace. Because peace is the mark of real power. It's the fruit of divine connection. You can fake success. You can fake confidence. You can even fake kindness. But you can't fake peace. And now, that's your new standard. You're no longer moved by the crowd. You're moved by conviction. You're no longer chasing timelines. You're honoring divine timing. You're no longer forcing doors. You're waiting for the ones that feel like truth. This is the shift, and it's not temporary. This is the new reality for those who are truly connected, not just in prayer, but in posture, not just in words, but in energy. Because divine connection isn't just something you say, it's something you embody. It's how you walk, it's how you love, it's how you listen, it's how you hold space for others without losing yourself. And yes, it makes you different. But you've always been different. You were just taught to see it as a weakness. Now you're learning. Your difference is your assignment. Your uniqueness is your authority. Your divine connection isn't just a comfort, it's a command. And your life is proof that the divine chooses the unexpected, the overlooked, the ones with the pasts, the ones who wrestled with doubt, the ones who got back up again and again and again. Not because they were strong, but because something inside them refused to give up. That something is divine. That something is rising now. And it's about to change everything. You are not just changing, you are transforming. At a cellular level, at a soul level. There is a recalibration happening within you that doesn't require external confirmation to be real. You can feel it. You can sense the shedding, the rising, the rearranging of priorities, boundaries, and truths. This isn't about improving who you were. This is about becoming who you are. And who you are is aligned with something far greater than this world could define. You're not chasing success as the world defines it, you're becoming success as heaven designed it. There's a difference. One is noise. The other is legacy. One demands validation. The other walks in quiet authority. You see, chosen one, your connection with God is not an escape, it's a foundation. And everything that's being built on top of that foundation will last. That's why you've been stripped, pruned, refined, not to punish you, to prepare you for something that requires roots, not just wings. And this is where you are now, in the root work. The part where you're not being seen, but you're being strengthened. The part where you're not being praised, but you're being planted. And when God plants something, it grows. Not always quickly, not always publicly, but always intentionally, always divinely. You are not behind, you are in the becoming. And becoming takes time, because what you're carrying cannot be rushed. The connection you have with the divine is not a weekend experience. It's a lifestyle, a lens, a frequency you choose over and over, even when life tries to pull you into confusion. But you're done with confusion. You've been in the fog long enough to know what clarity tastes like. And once you've tasted clarity, chaos becomes boring. You no longer crave the drama, the cycles, the almosts. You crave peace, purpose, presence. You crave what doesn't cost your soul to keep. That's divine maturity, and you've earned every inch of it. You've cried for it, you've prayed for it. You've fought silent battles in dark rooms just to hold on to your light. And now that light is expanding, you're no longer dimming to survive, you're shining to serve. Because the divine doesn't bless you just for you to be comfortable. It blesses you to be a blessing. And you, chosen one, are becoming a lighthouse. Not because you want the attention, but because the world needs your clarity. There are people who will find their way home because you didn't quit, because you stayed aligned, because you dared to believe that God's plan was greater than your past. This is the moment where you realize your story is sacred. All of it. The mess, the miracles, the detours, the delays, the way you held on when everything inside you said, "Let go." That was divine. That was proof of power. That was the anointing operating in silence. And now, the silence is breaking. Not with noise, with revelation. You're starting to see why it had to happen the way it did. You're starting to understand why the door didn't open, why the person left, why the dream changed. It wasn't rejection, it was realignment. Because sometimes the divine doesn't remove something to hurt you, it removes it to make room for what is you. And you, chosen one, are not meant for half-truths or halfway blessings. You are meant for overflow, for deep fulfillment, for connections that feel like home, for work that ignites your spirit, for days that feel like alignment, for nights that feel like peace. Not because life will be perfect, but because your connection with God will be constant. That connection is your anchor, your compass, your secret weapon. It will guide you through doors no one saw coming. It will whisper directions no map can show. It will protect you from things you didn't even know were meant to harm you. And most of all, it will keep you when nothing else can. Because chosen one, your story isn't being written by your circumstances. It's being written by your alignment. And right now, that alignment is glowing. It's starting to attract divine timing. It's starting to unlock generational shifts. It's starting to reverse patterns that were passed down to you, but don't belong in your future. You are not the product of your past. You are the architect of a new reality, one that is not built on fear, but on faith, one that is not built on proving, but on knowing, one that doesn't need everyone's applause, just God's whisper. Keep going. You're right on time. And you are. You're not too late. You're not too early. You're right on divine schedule. And yes, it might still feel uncertain. You might still feel like you're walking through the unknown. But listen closely. The unknown is not your enemy. The unknown is the birthplace of miracles, of clarity, of divine appointments, of encounters that shift everything. The unknown is not empty. It's sacred. And you are being called to trust it, to step boldly into spaces where your logic won't lead, but your spirit will. This is not recklessness. This is reverence. This is what it means to walk with God, to trust what you feel, even when it doesn't yet match what you see, to move by spirit, not just by sight. And when you do, everything starts to realign. Peace becomes normal. Synchronicities increase. Doors open without forcing. People come into your life and say, "I don't know why, but I feel like I'm meant to connect with you." That's not chance. That's the divine plan in motion. It's the reward for your obedience, the fruit of your surrender. And it's only just beginning. Now that you've remembered who you are, now that your connection with God is alive again, now that your power is no longer a possibility but a presence, what comes next is not theory, it is activation. Because chosen one, power without embodiment, is potential unrealized. And you were not sent here to just have potential. You were sent here to walk in your divine inheritance, to use the tools, the visions, the wisdom that has been cultivated in secret. This is where it moves from insight to impact. You've been prepared for this, not just emotionally or mentally, but spiritually. You've been trained through experience, tested through fire, shaped by silence, and all of it has positioned you to become what most people only read about, aligned. You don't just talk about the divine plan, you live it now. You don't just believe in God's voice, you follow it now. That's what real alignment is, no longer negotiating with what you know to be true. You see the red flags sooner. You honor your energy more fiercely. You guard your peace with sacred discipline. Not because you're better than anyone, but because your connection demands clarity. And that clarity is gold. You are no longer available for the patterns that keep you stuck. You are no longer available for relationships that make you question your worth. You are no longer available for environments that require you to shrink. Because when you walk with divine power, you no longer try to fit into spaces. You shift them. And this is the part of the journey where the world starts to notice. Not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. The way you speak, the way you move, the way you say no without guilt, the way you say yes without hesitation. You are becoming what you once prayed to meet. And now the mirror is clean. You can see yourself, not through the lens of pain or trauma or survival, but through the lens of purpose. And it's beautiful. You've spent years dimming, doubting, deflecting compliments, avoiding center stage, not because you weren't powerful, but because you hadn't yet trusted your own light. But now you do. Now you walk with your head high, not in arrogance, but in awareness, aware of who walks with you, aware of what lives inside you, aware of what you've overcome and why it matters. Because your story carries a frequency, one that others feel before you ever speak. And here's the truth. They'll ask you how you did it, how you stayed kind when life was cruel, how you kept your faith when nothing made sense, how you managed to rise from things that were designed to break you. And your answer won't be complicated. You'll smile and say, I remembered who I am. I remembered who God is. I stopped running from the divine plan and started living inside it. And that answer will ripple. Because in a world full of chaos, your peace will be loud. Your alignment will be contagious. Your energy will walk into rooms before you do and shift the atmosphere. Not because you're trying, but because you are. You are now a living embodiment of what it means to be chosen. And chosen doesn't mean favored over others. It means faithful to what others abandoned. It means available to what others ignored. It means devoted to the sacred whispers that never stopped guiding you, even when the world said you were wrong, too sensitive, too spiritual, too much. But too much was always just code for correctly calibrated. Because this frequency you're walking in now, it doesn't just elevate you, it activates others. It gives permission to those still stuck in survival. It gives language to those who haven't yet found their voice. It gives hope to those who lost their way. That's why you had to walk through what you walked through. Not for pain, for perspective. You can't fake this wisdom. You can't fabricate this glow. You can't Google this level of presence. It comes from living it, from showing up when you had nothing left, from listening when there was no sound, from moving forward when the path was invisible. And now that you've crossed the threshold, you don't go back. You don't entertain what you've outgrown. You don't revisit what you've been healed from. You don't negotiate your peace for temporary belonging, because your belonging is not up for debate. It's divine. It was written into your soul long before this world gave you labels. And now, the only label that matters is this: aligned, anointed, activated. And with that comes responsibility. Not to be perfect, but to be present. To show up for your calling even when no one's watching. To honor your voice even when it shakes. To trust the divine plan even when your emotions scream otherwise. Because faith isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to keep going. And you, chosen one, have mastered that art. You've mastered the art of stillness in storms, of grace under pressure, of rising with wisdom instead of revenge. And now, your reward isn't just external, it's internal. Peace you can't explain, energy that doesn't lie, opportunities that align with your soul, not your ego. This is the new path. It's not a destination, Svei. It's a dimension. And every time you say yes to your divine truth, you unlock more of it. More clarity, more depth, more divine encounters, more supernatural timing, and more evidence that God was never punishing you. God was preparing you. For this expansion, this walk, this embodiment, this legacy, this frequency of divine connection that cannot be faked, only lived. And now you're living it, fully, boldly, beautifully. And now, here you are, at the edge of the old world and the entrance of the new. At the final threshold, not of a destination, but of remembrance. Everything up to this point has been a preparation. Every struggle, every silence, every moment of near collapse, all of it was shaping you for this final knowing. You are not seeking the divine. You are one with it. And not because you try, but because you are. You are what happens when the divine plan awakens within a soul that is finally ready to receive it. You are what happens when sacred remembrance returns. You are what happens when heaven touches earth, not as a myth, but as a human being walking in truth. So rise, Walk boldly, glow quietly, speak clearly, and most of all, love deeply, because that's the truest form of divine connection. And chosen one, now that you have it, you will never be the same. You're not just connected, you are activated. You are not just one in a million. You are the one. And your divine plan? It has only just begun.